Have you ever wondered if strangers are watching you through your cell phone? How would you feel if your children were being watched in their bedrooms, in the bathroom? What about yourself? They're not just watching, they are taking videos of you, reading your text messages, your emails, looking at your private photos, listening in on your private life, stalking your every move, and you don't have a clue. Then they give it out to the public. These are people you know, people you don't know, and no one says anything. It happened and is still happening to me, my mom, and my elderly grandparents. It has been going on for almost a decade. The level of premeditation is staggering. If it happened to us, it could happen to you. I'm here to tell my story. I'm asking the public to help get this out. What you are about to find out will shock you. And once the FBI investigates further, the world will be confronted with pure evil. DePaul University is complicit in a child exploitation case. Judge Sunil Harjani sealed our federal complaint from the public. Not to protect us, to protect child. And the complaint sits without life. People are being paid to be silent. They like the money. They hope not to get caught, even at the cost of my family's suffering. My name is Christina Hernandez. My mom and I have a federal lawsuit against DePaul University, the law offices of Gunty and McCarthy, and Empist, their IT vendor. Judge Sunil Harjani sealed our lawsuit from the public. Ask yourself why. We put a no seal on the complaint, and he sealed it anyway. Now it just sits. This is a coordinated crime that spans institutions. When the FBI investigates, the list of defendants will trigger a national emergency. Family members, institutions, and corporations were complicit. I need the public's help to expose this. I need this to go viral. This is not just my story, it is a federal crime. My federal complaint number is 1:25-CV-10692, sealed to hide it. United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division. My OCR case number is 05-25-2408. My Illinois Board of Nursing case number is 2025-10586. Our federal complaint was filed on September 5th, 2025. And as of today, there is still no file stamp. Bribes? Anyone? This isn't just a delay. This is a child exploitation and cyberstalking case. And the cyberstalking didn't begin in college. It began when I was a child. I wasn't the only one exploited. Very young children were encouraged to say and do things only adults would understand. There were cameras. Children were complicit. Institutions were bribed to protect predators and silence survivors. But I refused to stay silent. I became a witness, and now I lead the law. Let's make changes together. I'm asking the public to help us break the silence, forward my social media, share my videos. My accounts are being suppressed. There is critical evidence on my Linktree, emails, court filings, and testimony. Please help us get this out. I remember this clearly. A male student asked, "Who is Christina Hernandez?" Later, that same male student showed up in a photo with two other boys. It was taken from a girl's Snapchat account. The caption said, "Hacked." I followed that girl. I saw the post myself. This wasn't just a joke. It was bait. It was the start of something bigger. Digital mimicry, reputation games, social engineering. We were in grammar school at St. John Fisher. This wasn't random. It was planned. In 8th grade at St. John Fisher, a female student told classmates something disturbing. Her next door neighbor, also our classmate, flew his drone to her bedroom window. She said she had a towel on. The window was open. She freaked out and slammed it shut to get the drone out. That was the first time I heard about drone surveillance, but it wasn't the last. In Michigan, an older man kept flying his drone over me while I was swimming and while I was on the sand. Another time in Michigan, when I was in high school, I was tanning outside. My mom caught another girl sneaking up on me, trying to take a picture of my behind. She was put up to this. This wasn't random. It was targeted mimicry. It was surveillance-linked harassment, and it started early, and it was all directed at me. This doesn't tell the full story. I was being sexually violated at a very young age. What I've shared so far, and what I'll keep sharing in this video, doesn't even begin to show the full extent of what happened. There is way more to it. From grammar school to high school to DePaul University, I was bullied, and adults tried to control my life. Look at what DePaul University did to me. Listen to my story, rally with me. October 24th, 2024, 2024, the day the hack became visible, my mother realized we were being watched, not just monitored, controlled. Our phones were hijacked in real time, photos enlarged, articles opened and closed, screens manipulated while we watched. We never consented, we had no warning, but this wasn't new. It had been happening for almost a decade, and it is still happening. Besides our electronics at home being compromised, my mom's work computer was compromised. The firm knew. They watched her through unauthorized surveillance. When she spoke up, they gaslighted her. They monitored her calls at work too. Coworkers were encouraged to isolate and harass her. They were complicit, they benefited. Investigate and it will all come out. On January 2nd, 2025, Tim McDonald, an IT employee with Empist, was caught accessing my mother's personal laptop inside our home. No code, no permission, no justification. Empist is the IT vendor for the law offices of Gunty and McCarthy, my mother's former employer. Tim McDonald admitted in writing that that specific remote management tool, I was not prompted for a code to have access to the device. That is unauthorized access. That is a federal crime. My mother wrote to Jim McCarthy, a partner at the firm. Anytime I worked from home and needed Empist to assist, I had to enter a code for them to access my laptop. Jim McCarthy replied, that is how it works for me, so I don't know how anyone might have accessed your personal laptop. Then my mom said, well, Tim did access my personal laptop without a code, so I know anyone from Empist can access my electronics at any time due to their knowledge and tools. The firm deflected, they minimized. They let the very vendor we reported investigate themselves. No independent review, no accountability, no justice. My mother asked for an outside investigation. She asked for the FBI. They said no, even after allegations of child. That's not just negligence. That's complicity. At 3:13 p.m., the office manager emailed my mother, I'm sorry your family is going through this, and if there's anything we can do to help, please let me know. But that message was performative. She was already participating in the crime, and so were her children. Let that sink in. This wasn't empathy, it was mockery. This was a contradiction, because my mom asked for an outside investigation, and they said no. They didn't want to help. They showed no concern when she reported issues with her own work computer. In October 2024, everything intensified. Late at night on October 24, the day after a family birthday, we realized we'd been hacked. A covert app called Control had been secretly downloaded onto my mom's phone. The name wasn't random, it was a message, a declaration. They wanted us to know they were in control. At the same time, SuperChat, Authenticator 7, and Life360 were downloaded onto my device. Apps tied to surveillance, tracking, and psychological conditioning. But it didn't stop there. We started seeing the numbers 1 and 3 everywhere. Timestamps, message counts, phone calls, text messages, email subjects. These weren't coincidences. They were psychological triggers embedded to destabilize and mark us. For us, 1 and 3 aren't just numbers. They are a numeric signature, a code the perpetrators use to signal control, to mirror our history, and to turn our memories into weapons. That is why October 15 matters. That day, my mom's former office manager, Kathy Bickelhopt, sent an email about new bathroom codes at 1:33 p.m., a timestamp that mirrored the harassment numbers 1 and 3. The language was deliberate. She said bathroom instead of washroom. A keypad was added to a door that already had a lock, unnecessary with COVID protocols. It was the setup. Around that same time, we were questioning whether a hidden camera had been placed in our bathroom at home by a family member. The pattern of surveillance and symbolic intrusion had escalated to the point where even our most private spaces felt compromised. Then came October 30th, 2024. At DePaul, my mythology professor, Kirk Shelko, made a disturbing comment in class. Being watched in the shower is something you'd never think would happen in 50 years. Minutes later, a student I'd never seen before started jumping up and down outside the classroom window, trying to get my attention. It was staged, a signal, a provocation. They were watching. That same day, my mom's workplace sent out an email about elevator security access. The next day, October 31st, 2024, a coworker replied, I trust no one these days. I like feeling secure. It was all connected, the hacking, the timestamps, the language, the surveillance. DePaul, my mom's job, our home. They weren't just watching, they were sending messages, they were testing boundaries, they were trying to break us. But we documented everything, and now we are exposing it. When I was in 8th grade, I played on the volleyball team. The coach gave me jersey number 21. In the team photo, they placed a girl wearing number 3 next to me. Later, someone posted that photo on Snapchat, but they cropped the girl with the number 3 out of the picture. At first, my mom and I thought it was about racism because she was African American, but it wasn't, it was planned. They didn't crop her out because of who she was. They cropped her out because of the number 3. That number has been used to harass me for years. And the number 21 on my jersey, that wasn't random either. They gave it to me on purpose to represent the age they wanted me to be when they reached a certain point in their plan. That was their time frame. They want me homeless, with nothing, and deceased at the age of 21. They want to do the same to my mom and my elderly grandparents. Pay attention to the correlations. Pay attention to their actions. Fast forward to senior year of high school, a male student in one of my classes posted an odd photo and called it 21 Jump Street. He was imitating a photo my mom had posted on Facebook, even though her account wasn't active at the time. It wasn't just him, other students mimicked it too. That same student pulled my hair really hard during class. He also took out his phone and snapped unauthorized photos of me. No one stopped him, no one intervened. And this goes back even further. At basketball practice in grammar school, I was in 6th or 7th grade. One of my teammates' dads took over the practice, even though he wasn't the coach. He chose me to be the example, not his own daughter. He told me to go to the free throw line and shoot a basket. Then he told the rest of my teammates, go to one side if you believe in her, and to the other side if you don't. All of them went to the side that didn't believe in me. It was inappropriate, it was staged, it was planned, it was premeditated. His daughter told me many times, my dad doesn't like Mexicans. I am Mexican, and he took enjoyment in hurting a child that day. This wasn't just bullying, it was symbolic targeting, it was coordinated, it was documented. This is just one example, one of many, of how parents, students, and administrators were aware and participated. They weren't just watching, they were orchestrating. September 15th, 2025, MedSurg 1 class at DePaul University, Professor Karen Nedgel tells the class, a parent passing at 50 from a heart attack, then you think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? She said that in front of everyone. October 6th and 7th, illegal dismissal from the nursing program was confirmed. I only attended one day of class for fall. The next day, I didn't even have class. And that is when the Dean of Students, Ellen Fingato, and Dr. Stephanie Bird made their move to remove me from the program. What happened next proved it wasn't just DePaul. It was coordinated. DePaul correlated with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The EEOC contacted my mom on October 6, 2025. They canceled her appointment, originally set for October 20th, 2025, and blamed the government's shutdown. I was dismissed from the nursing program October 3rd, 2025, but was told I can appeal. I was officially removed October 6th and October 7th of 2025. Instead of pausing her appointment, they told her to redo the forms and start over, with new appointments not available until March 2026. She complied. They won't respond, and then this happened. Right after the dismissal and EEOC cancellation, 50 free cans of tuna fish was delivered to our home. The head of nursing, Dr. Bird. Birds eat fish. I have active complaints against her. This wasn't random. This was symbolic choreography. The hackers were consistently changing my desktop picture to birds. My mom witnessed it. They were letting me know she was coming for me. 50 wasn't just a number. It was used by the DePaul mythology professor too on October 30th, 2024, when he said, being watched in the shower is something you never think would happen in 50 years. The comment was followed by a staged provocation, a student jumping outside the classroom window, trying to get my attention. It was staged, it was surveillance, it was psychological warfare. So when DePaul fed me fish, I knew what it meant. So when Professor Nedgel referenced a parent passing at 50, she was referencing death directly at my family. This is the same professor who said the word gun when my lab partner put a thermometer to her head to illustrate it for the class. This wasn't just inappropriate, it was symbolic, it was targeted. She's also the professor who used the word butcher. I'll share that story soon. The hacking, the timestamps, the language, the surveillance. DePaul, my mom's job, our home. On September 30th, 2025 at 10 a.m., Sydney Henderson sent out an email stating that the BSN student handbook had been revised and referenced changes to the medical safety exam policy. But I had just taken that exam before being illegally dismissed, and everything was identical to the previous quarter. There was no legitimate reason for that email. She was only connecting the word safety. Around that time, I kept receiving DePaul University lab safety emails sometimes at midnight. They weren't reminders, they were psychological tactics. They were manipulated to instill fear. My mother's account passwords were changed to phrases like bon voyage, drastic changes, trouble, subway 911. On September 7th, 2024, a stranger yelled outside our home on the Ring camera, "I just lost my job."
Do it. I just got my job.
It was another taunt, another threat, another signal that we were being watched. On April 3rd, 2025, after nearly 18 years of service, my mother was let go. This wasn't a coincidence. It was coordinated. When she told James McCarthy, partner of the firm, that she will get into the FBI building as we were being actively blocked, her car window was smashed the next day. We've tried to speak to an agent at the Chicago FBI building. We've been blocked by the very officers who are supposed to protect us. If it happened to us, it can happen to you. We demand a federal investigation. We demand accountability. We demand protection for every family targeted by digital abuse and institutional cover-up. This is not just our story. This is a blueprint for resistance. I will now share some more experiences with you. Pay attention to the symbolism, pay attention to the content, pay attention to the coordination, the inaction, and the silence. This doesn't include all the harm. Know that family members, my mom's former workplace, their IT vendor, our phone provider, our cable company, my grammar school, high school, university, institutions, and many, many more, all knew, all contributed to the harm. They tried to erase it. They tried to bury it. They hoped I wouldn't make it. I did. I will make them public. This is the truth. This is my story. Help me expose them. In March 2022, my mom was persuaded by the partner who supervised her to stay at the firm. By September, he quietly transitioned to of counsel, despite previously assuring her he was too young to retire. He quietly transitioned to of counsel by September. After that, the sexual harassment and racial discrimination intensified, and by October 2024, both of us were experiencing digital compromise, passwords tampered with, accounts breached, and symbolic interference we couldn't ignore. My mom made several complaints about sexual harassment and child exploitation. On April 3rd, 2025, she was let go by phone. She told James McCarthy, the firm's partner, "I will get into the FBI building." The next day, my mom's backseat side window was smashed, and the threats escalated. Tires slashed, drive-by intimidation, dead animals left on the property, a man yelling into my bedroom window. "I have a gun, and I'm ready to use it." That wasn't random, that was targeted. And then came the assignment. Around the same time my mom's window was smashed, I received a classroom assignment at DePaul University. It was called the windshield assignment. Part of my community health course, it appeared in my digital portal, and then it was gone. When I asked the professor what happened, she acted like it had never been uploaded. She said the other professor was still working on it. Then, right in front of me, she uploaded it again. That was a contradiction. The assignment was about observing and documenting a neighborhood. It was due the following week. But the timing, the framing, it was too close to dismiss. My mom's window was smashed. I got a windshield assignment. Professor acted like it had never existed. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was symbolic interference, psychological provocation, retaliatory messaging. It was designed to intimidate, to destabilize, to make us question what is real. And it didn't stop there. There were direct threats. There were evidence deletion. There was a pattern. It started with an in-person exchange. On September 24, 2024, as my mom was leaving work for the day, James Walton, one of the partners at her former workplace, approached her at the elevator. She heard him running up behind her, clearly trying to catch her before she left. The exchange was strange. He asked how she was doing, but stared at her chest while speaking. Then he asked about my brother, someone he hadn't mentioned in 8 years. My mom tried to shift the conversation to me, but he went silent. Then he redirected the conversation back to my brother. It didn't make sense at the time, but 3 days later, the pattern became clear. She received a tutoring site recommendation from Superprof. The profile was unusual. The tutor claimed to be an electrical engineer, enjoyed solving puzzles, practiced Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and held a chalkboard. She had a sorority-style tattoo on her hand. She said her name was Sophia. The title electrical engineer was at random. It repeated the exact misstatement my mom had made at the elevator with James Walton. She had meant to say mechanical engineer, but accidentally said electrical, and now the tutor's profile echoed that error, mirroring it back as bait. But the reviews were what triggered us. They included James and Jim, the same names as two partners at my mom's former workplace, who both went by Jim, James McCarthy and James Walton. Angelina, the name the office manager used to call my mom at times. Justina, a one-letter shift from Justina, the name I used for my senior year English farewell video. Jake, a celebrity I featured in that same video as a symbolic figure, and many more familiar names, each one tied to our personal timeline, emotional history, or professional environment. The tutoring site claimed the profiles were verified, but when my mom emailed to confirm the tutor's credentials, they refused to provide them. This wasn't a neutral recommendation, it was a targeted provocation designed to trigger emotional labor and signal that the partners at the firm were complicit. The elevator scene connected to Sophia. A family member dated a girl named Sophia. I was doing mixed martial arts at the time. That same family member is a mechanical engineer. The sorority image on her hand connected to another partner at the firm and to a specific sorority at a university. Even looking into it was part of the harassment. The deeper I dove, the more I found. It will all come out. Around the same time, the office manager's daughter posted a chalkboard photo to Instagram mimicking Sophia. It had white writing and one word, PH, in a different color, deliberately referencing medical terminology, which I was actively pursuing at the time. And on the Empus website, Marty Hitzman, an IT vendor tied to my mom's former workplace, was shown holding a paper with a line graph. He was mimicking Sophia and the office manager's daughter. It read, "When you are with us," smiley face at the top of a rising line. "When you're not with us," sad face at the bottom of a steep decline. This wasn't just branding, it was a public campaign targeting me, my mom, and my elderly grandparents, a visual metaphor for our engineered demise. A message, comply or collapse. My mom has prior correspondence with Superprof, documenting complaints against multiple tutors for harassment. We have the emails, we have the evidence, nothing was done. I will be releasing a separate video exposing how Superprof is linked to DePaul University. On October 14th, 2024, my mom emailed James Walton to clarify something he had asked weeks earlier. This was done on purpose to document the incident that happened at the elevator on September 24th, 2024. She had mistakenly said electrical engineer and meant mechanical engineer. But what stood out was this. He hadn't asked about the family member in 8 years. He never responded. Now we see it clearly. That inquiry wasn't casual. It was part of a deliberate sequence. A reactivation of dormant ties consistent with intergenerational exploitation. We didn't understand the full scope then, but we do now. Then, on October 22nd, 2024, my mom experienced a separate incident at her previous workplace. 2 days before we realized we were hacked. A coworker made an unsolicited comment. "Let's put the puzzle pieces together," then added, "I'm not trying to get you fired." Before that, she asked my mom if she was recording her. It is very unusual to ask a fellow coworker this over the phone. Very telling. We saw the consistent patterns. The phrase puzzle pieces directly echoed the Superprof tutor's profile, which listed solving puzzles as a key trait. This wasn't coincidence, it was symbolic linkage, a deliberate connection across platforms. And the second line, "I'm not trying to get you fired," wasn't innocent either. It revealed awareness of the plan and complicity in it. That same employee had been granted major perks by the firm. She was allowed to work remotely in another state for a full month, twice. Meanwhile, my mom was threatened that her days would be docked if she didn't strictly adhere to her in-person and at-home schedule, despite everything they were doing to her. During a pharmacology class at DePaul University on May 15th, 2025, Professor Budahezi asked nursing students to close their eyes and meditate. While they were meditating, she said, "A plan is in place and the pieces are slowly coming together." That wasn't just encouragement. This is symbolic conditioning designed to evoke themes of orchestration, surveillance, and strategic manipulation. The phrase "pieces coming together" mirrors patterns we've already documented: coded messaging, reputational baiting, and psychological psychological interference. This wasn't just a class moment, it was another attempt to harass me. It wasn't just misconduct, it was a coordinated setup unfolding across platforms. We didn't understand the full scope then, now we do. Their actions are escalating. 5 months after my mom was let go from the firm, I was illegally dismissed from the nursing program at DePaul University. The president was bribed, so were many others. They weren't just silent, they were complicit. This was a coordinated effort to destabilize us financially, emotionally, and federally. 2 dismissals in 5 months. Does that make sense? What's next? Stay tuned, I'm not done. I started DePaul University in 2023. I was one of 30 students chosen for the nursing program. I excelled, even as the school escalated harassment. Teaching assistants and professors tampered with my grades. It was a consistent fight to speak up. Then the head of nursing began disparate grading, targeted only at me. On our nursing exams, professors routinely threw out 2 questions, usually ones most students got wrong. Regardless of whether you answered correctly or incorrectly, you are supposed to receive 2 points back for each discarded question. But Dr. Stephanie Bird penalized me for answering correctly. If I got the question right, she refused to return the points. I was being punished for accuracy. I was earning A's on my exams, yet my overall percentage ranked among the lowest. How does that happen? I was the only student this was happening to. Then she instructed other nursing professors to do the same. Students with lower scores were pushed ahead. I was pushed down. Here's how the grading makes 0 sense. If student A is an African American male and student B is a white female and both scored 68% on the final exam, they should both fail. But if the professors throw out 2 questions, student B, who got both wrong, receives the points and passes with the 72%. Student A, who got both right, is told his score stays the same and he fails. That's racial discrimination. That's gender discrimination. They only did this to me. Other students knew. They participated. They were aware of my cyberstalking situation and coordinated harassment with professors. These are people entering the healthcare system, people entrusted with care. Investigate this and it will come out. DePaul University was actively trying to remove me from the program with the help from administrators, professors, and students. My first day of clinicals was September 12, 2025. My hours were stolen. I sat at a table for 2 hours and was told to go home. I'm missing 8.5 hours. Who signed off to the state that I completed them? Dr. Stephanie Bird filled her threat to take my clinicals away. I filed a complaint with the Department of Education for sexual harassment and racial discrimination. I documented disparate grading and education obstruction. The attorney, Stephen Worthington, signed a case number and disappeared. I sent multiple emails about escalating harassment, nothing. I formally notified Dr. Bird in April 2025 of the complaint. She wasn't afraid of losing her nursing license. She knew institutions were being paid off. She knew she could fulfill the plan to dismiss me and felt comfortable to do so. When my mom emailed the school and the Department of Education attorney, no one replied. In September 2025, I filed a complaint with the Illinois Board of Nursing. They assigned a case number, coordinated harassment, and disappeared. Indiana and Michigan boards of nursing declined to help. Ask yourself why. On September 5th, 2025, my mom and I filed a federal lawsuit. On my first day of school, September 10th, I opened my laptop and my desktop was turned upside down. I took a photo. That same day, Judge Thomas M. Durkin reassigned our case to Judge Sunil R. Harjani. The symbolism was clear. My world was about to be turned upside down. On September 6, 2025, the day after we filed our lawsuit, my mom received 2 emails from Indeed. One at 5:15 p.m., the same email again at 6:12 p.m. The subject, updates in terms of service. The update included a new arbitration clause, limiting exceptions and requiring disputes to be resolved before an arbitrator, not through litigation in court with a jury. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a coordinated response. Both moves were designed to shift power away from public accountability and into private control. Why doesn't the public know that I have a lawsuit against DePaul University? Christina Law 2026 is documenting every timestamp, every reassignment, every attempt to rewrite the rules after we fought back. On the day of the judicial reassignment, I was harassed by professors and students despite no public filings that would justify such awareness. At 3:01 p.m., I received an unsolicited email from a platform called Handshake, which purports to connect students with employers. The timestamp 3:01 p.m. matches numeric harassment patterns already documented in the record. 3 and 1 as baiting numbers. We've documented a recurring pattern of symbolic sun imagery interpreted as a covert reference to sun, appearing across digital platforms, printed materials, and behavioral cues. This is a signaling mechanism for targeted interference. So when my mom saw our case was transferred to Sunil or Harjani, she recognized the signal immediately. The word son wasn't coincidence, it was confirmation. She knew the judicial system was compromised. She was right. Judge Harjani sealed our complaint. On my first day of clinicals, September 12, 2025, Judge Harjani denied our motions for a temporary restraining order and FBI involvement. We reported impersonation of FBI agents. That alone should have triggered federal protection. Both judges sealed our complaint from the public. We explicitly requested it not to be sealed under Christina's law. Our motions were denied, but our complaint was hidden. That's a contradiction. That's the signal. My mom requested an attorney through the courts. Nothing. We requested reassignment, silence. The FBI needs to step in. Institutions are being bribed to silence us. Dr. Stephanie Bird came at me full force with Dean of Students Alan Fingato. My mom and I CC'd the president of DePaul University. He never replied. We made him aware of everything. He took a bribe, complied, and remained silent. Is that leadership? Professors repeated conversations from inside our home. There were staged dialogue between students and faculty. We notified the president, nothing. I was told to keep him off the emails. I have every right to hold him accountable. He didn't want the paper trail because he knew. After I filed complaints with the president, Dr. Bird faked a head injury. There are active investigations against her. I am federally protected. She knows this, so does Dean Fingato, who also oversees Title IX. They broke the law, they knew, they did it anyway. That's because they are complicit in fulfilling the plan. They were bribed. For months, they tried to get me behind closed doors, to pressure me into signing fabricated paperwork. But after I filed my complaint with the Department of Education, they backed off. They were waiting to see if the assigned attorney would take the bribe. He did. That was their confirmation to move forward with coercion. They had the judges, they had the institutions, and they used them. I only attended one full day of school, and they attacked the next day. I paid tuition, I bought books, I paid for travel, and they robbed me blind. Not for one day, but for over 3 years of my schooling at DePaul University. This is highway robbery. In the days surrounding our federal complaint, the harassment intensified, digitally, symbolically, and institutionally. On September 5th, 2025, the day we filed our case, my mom received a prank text at 10:14 a.m. It said, "Hi, Ivan, this is Amelia." We knew immediately Amelia was a reference to Amelia Earhart, the pilot who crashed and disappeared. It was a warning, a threat. That same week, hackers manipulated the search engines on both my mom's and my personal laptops. They forced images of 8 airplanes to appear over and over. We understood the message. 8 planes, 8 family members. On September 8th, 2025, David Lawrence, a clinical instructor, emailed us. Welcome aboard. We weren't taking a flight, but the symbolism was clear. Flight, crash, disappearance. On September 10th, 2025, the first day of school, Professor Richard Lee kept calling us all comrades. He repeated my name twice. He asked me how I was doing, but didn't ask anyone else. It was staged. A student named Angelina sat next to me and asked, "Why is the professor calling us comrades?" This wasn't random either. At my mom's previous workplace, the office manager, Kathy Bickelhop, used to call her Angelina. This was a scripted connection, linked my classroom to my mom's past. Later that same day, at 9:40 a.m., Professor Nedgel told the class, "Buckle up your seatbelts, this is going to be a bumpy ride." That wasn't just a metaphor, it was part of the same flight-themed harassment. I emailed the president of DePaul University. I said, "Please see attached." I sent a photo of my laptop, screen flipped, upside down by hackers. I said, "Was it because it is my first day of school? Or did something else significant happen at 8:41 a.m. today?" In the subject line, I wrote, "Hackers and Judge Sun." I used Sun instead of Judge Sunil Harjani because we were calling him out. We know he's aware. We know he's participating. He never responded. Then on September 22nd, 2025, Professor Catherine Owen said class was canceled due to her flight being delayed. This was 11 days after 9/11. I don't believe it was true. Let's investigate it. This isn't coincidence. It is choreographed retaliation layered with symbolism, intimidation, and judicial interference. They referenced Amelia, flights, seatbelts, bumpy ride, and delays. They flip screens. They stage classroom interactions. They use names like Angelina to tie it all together. This is how they operate. They are telling me and my mom they are going to take us down through symbolic targeting, digital sabotage, and institutional silence. The signaling of non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, and payoff logic began circulating well before our court filings, ambient and indirect. But in the days leading up to the complaint, hackers escalated interference. They broadcast awareness of the filing and continued to trigger institutional sabotage. The judiciary's strikes and omissions weren't isolated. They were part of a broader effort to suppress the complaint before it could be seen. The choreography was anticipatory. On top of that, the judge struck our temporary restraining order, a move that directly endangered us. Again, DePaul University correlated harassment with Judge Harjani. On September 27, 2025, Professor Karen Nedgel announced she was shortening our exam questions. She said, attached is the revised blueprint for the exam. Changes are in italics or a strike-through if I felt there were other areas of focus. She used the word strike-through on purpose. Our motions had just been striked in court. Her wording made no sense academically, but it made perfect sense symbolically. This was retaliation, this was choreography. DePaul, the courts, the classroom, all connected. We also requested FBI involvement, citing repeated denial of access and escalating threats. That motion was denied despite clear documentation in the complaint. Instead of protection, we were met with retaliation. This wasn't legal discretion, it was coordinated suppression. Federal building harassment. On September 3rd, 2025, in the downstairs lobby of the federal building, my mom told the officer she would hand over both our licenses. Despite this clear statement, the officer looked directly at me and asked, "Are you a minor?" It made no procedural sense. It was a mockery of our complaint. He knew who we were. It wasn't confusion, it was performance. On September 5th, 2025, in the same lobby, an employee took both licenses and theatrically called us twins. He stared at us like we were famous. The same officer from September 3rd laughed. He was supposed to be monitoring our bags, but he was focused on us. Later, near our home, while walking our dog, two small children approached. They asked if we were twins. One wore a New York sweater, a deliberate signal. She pulled out a CTA card, mirroring our exact transit route to the federal building. They claimed to have telepathy, repeating answers in sync. It was a scripted performance. With September 11th approaching, the message was unmistakable. You will be destroyed like the Twin Towers. The references to twins wasn't innocent. It was predictive retaliation, tied to judges, NDAs, and bribe acceptance. These girls were older than I was when I was first exploited. The presence symbolized grooming, not just what happened to me, but how easily their own family members could groom them and put them up to this staged performance. These girls were older than I was when I was first exploited. Their presence symbolized grooming. One of them called our dog a pig. That word wasn't about the dog. It was about the system. How easily law enforcement and judicial actors are paid off to conceal child exploitation. This wasn't innocent play. It was scripted, coordinated, and deliberate. This is what coercion looks like when institutions think they are untouchable. They didn't just retaliate, they left a paper trail, and we documented every step. September 11th, 2025, 3:27 p.m., Ellen Fingato, Dean of Students and Title IX, directed me to meet with her. She included Dr. Bird. This was retaliation for emailing the president. I had documented harassment in 2 classes. She told me to only correspond with her and Dr. Bird. 4:36 p.m. I replied, there is no reason to meet. I filed a complaint with the Department of Education. Is the school unaware I filed in April? September 13th, 2025, 11:26 a.m. My mom emailed, DePaul was aware of the federal complaint filed in April 2025. Dr. Bird was notified. We documented institutional cyberstalking and active monitoring. She stated, I have every right to contact Robert Manuel. September 15th, 2025, 4:37 p.m., Ellen Fingato requested a meeting out of concern for my well-being. She said it is a directive. If I refused, she'd initiate a student conduct process. She said she'd received an email from my mom, but would only speak to me despite a signed FERPA form. 4:39 p.m. Ellen Fingato said she was responding on behalf of the president regarding my emails sent September 13th at 10:59 a.m. and 11:26 a.m. She insisted communication be only with me, violating the FERPA form. 5:28 p.m. I replied, I have a Department of Education complaint. Neither DePaul nor Mr. Worthington have verified the date of formal notification. I am protected. 7:06 p.m. My mom wrote to DePaul that she is my pro se legal representative, that I will not meet with anyone, that I am protected under my complaints. September 17th, 2025, 4:55 p.m. Ellen Fingato again referenced my well-being, continuing to pressure a meeting. September 18th, 2025, 9:37 a.m. Dr. Bird issued a directive to meet. She claimed my first clinical day was orientation. That is a lie. I never had an orientation that day. Email said it would be a full day. Clinical instructor David Lawrence says correspondence was inconsistent. He was complicit. 12:09 p.m. My mom emailed DePaul, I will not attend a private meeting. She also documented stolen clinical hours. September 22nd, 2025, 4:55 p.m. Ellen Fingato initiated a student conduct process due to noncompliance. 4:56 p.m. She emailed again with instructions to pick up my letter via Maxient. September 23rd, 2025, 7:46 a.m. Ellen Fingato resent the Maxient letter. September 24th, 2025, 11:55 a.m. Ellen Fingato sent a PDF claiming I hadn't opened the Maxient letter. This is coercion. This is harassment. This is stalking. September 29th, 2025, 8:34 p.m. Dr. Bird emailed, I was issued a student faculty contract on September 23rd, 2025. I was told to sign and return by September 26th. She claimed I missed the deadline, but gave me 24 hours to respond about an in-person meeting by October 3rd. If I didn't respond, I'd be dismissed, but could appeal. They were breaking the law. They wanted my signature to cover it. October 2nd, 2025, 4:38 p.m. Ellen Fingato sent another email with attached correspondence, also via secure server. This is not communication. This is surveillance. October 30th, 2025, 6:20 p.m. My mom emailed Assistant Professor Boutron asking why he sent the dismissal notice. He did not reply. I received the dismissal after returning home from clinicals. It wasn't coincidence, it was cyberstalking. That same day, my clinical instructor tried to dismiss me 2.5 hours early. He stopped only after my mom complained in an email to him. The letter also said I wasn't dismissed from non-nursing courses. Ask yourself, how does that make sense? October 6, 2025, 2:31 p.m. Angel Boutron followed up on the October 3rd dismissal. He said I had until 5 p.m. to respond, though this wasn't in the letter. 2:41 p.m. I asked him to clarify his title. The letter was incomplete. 2:43 p.m. He asked what my question was, then asked again if I'd petitioned for reinstatement. 2:44 p.m. I asked, you are the chair of Admission, Progression, and Retention Committee for. He left it blank. 2:45 p.m. He asked for clarification. 2:46 p.m. I said the first sentence of the letter was incomplete. 2:50 p.m. He acknowledged the mistake, then asked a third time if I'd petition. In 19 minutes, he asked 3 times. That's not protocol, that's coercion. 3:03 p.m., I replied, the dismissal is unlawful, retaliatory, and premeditated. I'm federally protected. If finalized, it is a federal violation. You are committing a crime. I asserted that individuals at DePaul received bribes to suppress my education and silence my complaints. 3:48 p.m., I asked for confirmation of illegal dismissal. October 7, 2025, 11:14 a.m., Mr. Boutron confirmed my dismissal. He said non-nursing classes were unaffected. October 11, 2025, 5:46 p.m., I emailed about stolen clinical hours and breach of contract. I have an active OCR complaint. This is abuse of licensure authority and institutional fraud. I requested full refund and restitution. I CC'd Department of Education on it and Illinois Board of Nursing. No reply. 6:17 p.m., I said I cannot attend class under ongoing psychological abuse. retaliation, and sabotage. I am physically ill. I will withdraw from the remaining non-nursing course. This partial enrollment is not support. It is coercion, discrimination, and control. October 13th, 2025, 4:39 p.m., Michael Roberts confirmed my withdrawal. 7:11 p.m., I emailed to clarify my withdrawal wasn't voluntary. Roberts failed to acknowledge my full email. I also noted that 2 nursing students accessed my TikTok account. We aren't friends. They didn't have my number. I just made the account under a new email. My mom and I already knew, because of the cyber stalking, that the school was aware of my social media accounts. We knew they only kept me enrolled in one non-nursing course so they could continue monitoring, threatening, and using my social media posts to harass me. Their plan was confirmed when 2 nursing students appeared on my TikTok account. They had no reason to find me. They had no access to my information, and we are not connected. This wasn't coincidence. It was surveillance disguised as academic process. This is a federal crime. The FBI needs to investigate DePaul University, Department of Education, Illinois Board of Nursing, and the judges in our lawsuit. October 14, 2025, 7:14 p.m., Michael Roberts emailed contact financial aid and student accounts. He placed the administrative withdrawal on me. He said I must justify a refund. This wasn't random, it was planned. Before I even started college, people were bribed. They were prepared to harass. They were on a mission to fulfill a dismissal orchestrated by my abusers, child family members, DePaul University, Gunty and McCarthy, Empist, T-Mobile, St. John Fisher, Mother Macaulay High School, and many more. They were complicit. I need the public's help to expose this. I need this to go viral. This is not just my story. This is a federal crime. Obstruction at the FBI field office. My mom and I are being blocked by police officers at the Chicago FBI field office. It is our constitutional right to speak to an FBI agent, and we are being denied that right. 2 officers who blocked us, Officer Ramos and Officer Wade, and many more. Our letters to the FBI and the Illinois State's Attorney are being intercepted. This is not just obstruction, this is a federal violation. Watch my YouTube videos of fake FBI phone calls. The caller is not a real FBI agent. 2 calls, same voice, different names, fully aware of what is in our letters. My mom tried calling the FBI in Wisconsin. Her calls were monitored and intercepted. She tried calling from her previous workplace. That failed too. This is surveillance. This is obstruction. This is a federal crime. Watch the videos, read the first amended complaint, 157 pages, read the emails, watch the testimony, help us get this out. January 24th, 2025, the day my mom asked for the FBI. On January 24th, 2025, my mom emailed the office manager. She wrote, "Please take my complaints of hacking and child seriously. I want the law firm to contact the FBI. I want them involved. Our civil rights are being violated in every way possible." The office manager, Kathy Bickelhop, responded the same day at 7:44 a.m. "Jim, please see Angie's emails below." She forwarded the message to James McCarthy and CC'd James Walton, 2 partners at the firm. At 10:16 a.m., Hernan Salgado from Empist replied to my mom, "Thank you. We'll wait for your response." 8 minutes later, 10:24 a.m., my mom emailed him, "Was that you trying to call me just now from Leroy, Illinois? The call came at the same time you emailed me. It says First Partner Loans, 309-468-2474. Or is this just another of the hundreds of prank calls I receive, always correlating with my workplace?" Hernan said the call wasn't from him. My mom replied, "No, but you may be aware of the call, right?" He said he was unaware of any such calls. Now let's look at the correlation. My mom requests the FBI. Kathy forwards that request to 2 partners. A couple hours later, my mom gets a call from First Partner Loans from Leroy, Illinois. Roy is the name of Kathy Bickelhop's husband. Loans, because they had a malicious plan to let my mom go from the firm. Someone is paying off institutions to silence us. And their plan was never just to fire her. It was to do more harm. My mom rented a car from budget, and what happened next raised serious concerns. She realized we were being tracked through the rental vehicles. An employee at the facility repeated private conversations she'd had with a coworker. She had a rental scheduled from January 29th to February 1st, 2025, timed with our planned visit to the Chicago FBI field office. But on January 28th at 4:42 p.m., she got a missed call from Washburn, Illinois. The next day, we parked near Officer Ramos, and the street name was Washbourne. That coincidence felt too precise. It reinforced our concerns about hacking and surveillance tied to our visit. When my mom mentioned it to Officer Ramos, he said, "That is weird." He was also the first to mention the power outage. He used this as an excuse to turn us away. So did Officer Wade. And it didn't stop there. When we returned the rental, the receipt listed a license plate that didn't match the car we were given. The plate included the letters JTM, which my mom immediately associated with Jim, the partner at her former law firm. This wasn't just a rental, it was part of a broader pattern of symbolic targeting, surveillance-linked interference, and emotional baiting. And there is more. There were 2 additional visits to the FBI field office, and in both, we experienced obstruction. For that, I'll read directly from the federal complaint my mom and I filed. This is from the first amended complaint, page 91 to 93. On January 31st, 2025, plaintiffs were again denied access to an FBI agent despite prior assurances. A police officer named, name redacted, placed a phone call to Angelique and said the agent is ready to speak with you. Plaintiffs walked in while a man standing at the front desk remained silent. The police officers told the plaintiffs that this individual will handle plaintiffs' complaints. The police officers refrained from properly introducing this individual, and the individual did the same. This was taken by the plaintiffs as trickery, as the plan was to make plaintiffs think he was a real FBI agent without having to falsely state it. The plaintiffs thought it was weird that they were walking past this individual at the front desk before even going through the metal detectors. This individual, identified as name redacted, began to take down our complaint in front of the officers. When Angelique asked him if he was an FBI agent, he said no, and that he does the intake for them. He said he will take the complaint down, hand it to the FBI, and that plaintiffs would receive an email. Plaintiffs never received an email. He also mentioned that he doubts the FBI will take plaintiff's case. Plaintiffs were prevented from entering the FBI building. The individual plaintiff spoke with yawned and rolled his eyes, behavior plaintiffs interpreted as psychological signaling, consistent with previous incidents. On April 8, 2025, plaintiff Angelique Hernandez called the Wisconsin FBI field office and was rerouted to an individual claiming to be a federal agent. During the call, he discouraged formal action, suggested deletion of all evidence, and made legally and ethically indefensible statements, including, "It is not child unless you pay for it." Plaintiffs interpreted the call as calculated provocation, intended to dissuade federal engagement and signal institutional compromise. The caller identified himself as Mr. Mossman. Mr. Mossman asked about Angelique's birthday. He said happy birthday repeatedly. On the same day, April 8, 2025, plaintiff received 2 voicemails at 9:18 a.m. and 1:47 p.m., both auto-transcribed into text messages by her device's carrier. Each read, "Hi, this is Jody Foster from the underwriting department of Fast Track Lending." Plaintiffs interpreted these messages as symbolic taunting. Jody Foster, associated with fictional FBI portrayals, was understood as a mocking overlay to plaintiffs' thwarted attempt to contact authentic federal officials. The Fast Track language reinforced psychological interference and signal surveillance. On June 18, 2025, while attempting to verbally recall the Jody Foster reference during a customer support call with her cellular provider, plaintiff Angelique struggled to articulate the name aloud. Soon after, plaintiff Christina Hernandez received an institutional email from DePaul University regarding NASCAR street race traffic impacts beginning June 19th. Plaintiffs understood the parallel between Fast Track and NASCAR as symbolically triggered mimicry, reinforcing claims of behavioral surveillance and cross-channel interference. Plaintiffs assert these events reflect real-time monitoring, psychological manipulation, and telecommunications-enabled harassment, structured to obstruct documentation, destabilize cognitive recall, and simulate systemic collapse. These tactics were compounded by cellular anomalies, synchronized employee behavior, and thematic repetition consistent with scroll-documented retaliation patterns. On April 16, 2025, Angelique and a family member, name redacted, visited the FBI Chicago field office. The representative, who claimed to be an FBI agent, was Arab, short, bald, wore glasses, and was thin. His name reportedly began with the letter A. He denied the possibility of workplace surveillance, discouraged digital forensics, and stated that such conduct only happens overseas. Angelique was denied entry beyond the front desk. He also denied that a power outage outage had occurred during a prior visit, despite plaintiff's documentation. The representative appeared visibly nervous and avoided eye contact with Angelique. On April 25, 2025, Angelique texted the family member who accompanied her to the FBI field office, stating her belief that the individual they met was not a legitimate FBI agent. 4 minutes later, Angelique received a text from an unknown number reading, "Urgent appeal, America's on the line, name redacted. We need 1 million signatures today." The name reference matched the family member's name from the FBI visit. On August 18, 2025, at 12:01 a.m., plaintiff Christina received an email through DePaul University's Pulse app referencing an exam under the Modern Language Placement Test. Christina was not enrolled in any such course or test. Upon viewing the announcements, 2 entries appeared, one referencing November 23, 2010, and an Arabic placement exam. Plaintiff Christina believes November 23rd may correspond to the date she created a Snapchat account. The reference to 2010 is interpreted as marking nearly a decade of surveillance, as plaintiff made a Snapchat account in 2016. A theme echoed in a prior phone call where a caller claiming to be an FBI agent referenced a decade. Plaintiffs associate this email with the individual encountered at the FBI field office because of the reference to Arabic. Prior to Christina viewing the announcements, plaintiff Angelique received an email from Amazon referencing the Superman movie. Years earlier, the same family member had left a Superman t-shirt on Angelique's bed, unwrapped and unsolicited. In the August 18, 2025 announcement at 12:01 a.m., a DePaul staff member titled herself Super Admin. Her first name redacted, matched that of a former co-worker who reportedly used the phrases bad dream and nightmare. When combining the announcements and emails, plaintiffs anticipated a phone call from the same family member who had previously echoed the bad dream and nightmare language at the same time as the former co-worker. Plaintiffs believe the call was withheld after Christina screenshotted the Modern Language announcements. This pattern of unsolicited symbolic intrusion was not new. Notably, sometime after 2017, plaintiff Angelique Hernandez received an unexpected call from an individual from grammar school. The caller asked if she was okay. When plaintiff replied yes, the individual responded, "I had a dream you died." Plaintiff ended the call and there was no further contact. On August 3, 2025, Christina received an email from her former mythology professor, name redacted, at DePaul University, referencing registration for a modern language course. Plaintiffs documented these events as part of a broader pattern of symbolic targeting, institutional mirroring, and retaliatory amplification. The correlations are too numerous to dismiss. This isn't just sabotage, it is child exploitation. The cyberstalking didn't begin in college, it began when I was a child. I wasn't the only one exploited. Institutions were bribed to protect and silence survivors. But I refused to stay silent. I became a witness, and now I lead the law. Now I will share more testimony with the public. October 24th, 2024, my mom reported hacking. November 25th, 2024, Jim McCarthy, partner at Gunty & McCarthy, her former employer, sent a firm-wide email. Beware of share file emails from strangers. Lots of firms have been hacked. 1 month later, they confirmed it. Triana with Apple confirmed hacking. T-Mobile enabled it. The CEO of T-Mobile must be investigated. Who are all the CEOs who know? 2 DePaul professors, Catherine Owen and Richard Lee, consistently harassed me. Both made odd references to the Microsoft CEO. One even claimed she personally knew him. Now my mom and I are receiving Microsoft Team pop-ups we've never seen before. So we ask, who are all the CEOs who know? Who is participating? Who is funding this? Are they doing this to other children? Because this isn't just happening to us, it is happening to others, and it is being orchestrated across platforms, institutions, and corporate networks. Help us demand answers. Help us expose every executive, every funder, every institution that stays silent. Because silence is complicity, and complicity is criminal. My mom emailed her workplace and called them out. Their plan to attack our entire family is being exposed. I am documenting to prevent further harm and to expose it. My mom was let go from her former workplace to cause financial harm. It was a premeditated dismissal in the making for years, designed to coincide with my schooling. 5 months later, I was illegally dismissed from the nursing program, despite active complaints with the Department of Education and the Illinois Board of Nursing. Semblance of keys. Last year in 2024, The day before my grandma's birthday, someone left a key at our front door with 3 charms referencing Las Vegas. There was one charm with the letter M. My grandma's name starts with an M, and M can also stand for mom. During my mom's birthday 6 months earlier, she had mentioned to family that she was going to Las Vegas. This was something she made up to see if it would be repeated. The day after my grandma's birthday, we realized we were hacked. Birthdays are being used as symbolism. I found the key at the front door when I came home from school. I texted my mom what I found. She was working at her former workplace at the time. At the same time I texted her, she noticed a coworker standing at an empty desk watching her. My mom emailed her to document the correlation. The coworker did not respond in writing. When my mom was leaving for the day, she ran into the coworker. The coworker said she was going to get candy. That was untrue. She stood at an empty desk, staring at my mom. She was correlating with me as I got home and found the keys left at our door. Remember I mentioned one of my mom's passwords was changed by the hackers to Subway 911? Well, my mom and I always go to the Subway located at 8614 South Kedzie. We always sit at the same table in the same chairs. On July 5th, 2025, my grandma's sister's birthday, we walked in and found keys placed exactly where I sit. It was done on purpose. The receipt timestamp was 12:55:17 p.m., documenting the exact moment we arrived and discovered the setup. One of the workers, who was now off duty, kept glancing at my seat, as if checking whether we noticed. The placement was deliberate, the timing was symbolic. The keychains included one labeled Star Wars, one ring with 3 silver keys, another ring with 5 keys, 4 silver, 1 gold, a total of 8 keys with only 1 gold. The symbolism was clear. The gold key represents the family member who initiated the crime. The 8 keys represent the 8 original family members who knew. Another child was groomed within the family. He was a very small child who was manipulated into this network. Investigate this and it will come out. This is now the second time keys have been left for us to find. The first set was at our front door, timed to my grandma's birthday. The second set of keys are tied to her sister's birthday. Both incidents were coordinated, symbolic, and monitored. They are not just leaving objects, they are sending threats. This wasn't random, it was a deliberate symbolic drop, timed to a family birthday, placed at our usual spot, and watched by someone inside. Investigate this and it will come out. On July 17, 2025, during a clinical meeting on Zoom with DePaul University, I witnessed a moment that was anything but innocent. A nursing student's digital profile showed a newspaper titled The Brightest Times, with the radiant sun, a red heart emoji, and the phrase, "You can do anything, but not everything. Go easy on yourself." This wasn't just a motivational quote, it was coded messaging, delivered in a clinical setting during a moment of symbolic tension. At the time, my mom and I were drafting the federal complaint and drafting Christina's law. When I took a picture of this image, a student named Angelique left the Zoom. She has the same name as my mom. This was a deliberate message to back off. Earlier that morning, my grandma received a call right after her Android phone emitted the familiar doo-doo-doo-doo-doo notification sound. It was followed by a call from the Sun-Times. She asked out loud, "Why do they keep calling me?" At the same time, my mom received a mute pop-up alert on her laptop. These events weren't isolated. They were timed, synchronized, and engineered. We've documented a recurring pattern of sun imagery used as a covert reference to sun. It shows up in emails, profile pictures, printed materials, and behavioral cues. It is not just symbolism, it is a signaling mechanism for targeted interference. On the same day, July 17th, 2025, at 8:57 p.m., Professor Kara Nedgel sent out an email referencing clinicals, which was an odd email. At the end of the email, she placed a sun emoji. This is how they operate. Warm tones, innocent phrases, but underneath it all, psychological manipulation. They know about my grandpa. They know he has surgery on December 5th. They know he has money coming in from a lawsuit. That is motive, and they want to stop this. At DePaul, professors made sly references to heart attacks, bloody murder, December 5th. They weren't random, they were symbolic, they were targeted. Professor Nedgel repeatedly referenced Reuben V, not with the last name, but with the Roman numeral. This wasn't random, it was a coded reference to my father. Why December 5th matters. This date was chosen deliberately. It is the day after my dad's birthday, a man who chose not to be in my life. I do not have a relationship with him. He made that choice. And now they're using his absence as a weapon. On September 14, 2025, at 11:57 a.m., I received a text from someone claiming to be a human resource representative at Indeed. He said he was seeking qualified professionals for a remote opportunity. The group chat originally had 18 people, but on October 15, 2025, the day my grandpa was informed of his scheduled surgery, 2 people left the chat. One exited at 3:52 a.m., the other at 10:54 a.m. Now there are 16 people. That number is symbolic. I was hacked in 2016. Next year marks a decade. At one point, my laptop showed a pop-up with 18 trackers matching the original 18 people in the chat. In the text message, the sender underlined the letter I 9 times. The letter I connects to my grandpa's upcoming eye surgery. They replaced the letter F with question marks because his surgery is scheduled on a Friday, December 5th, 2025. There were 4 question marks. That number represents me, my mom, and my grandparents. The text also made a reference to having to be 28 plus years old. My grandma had her first eye surgery on October 29th, 2025. It also said paid time off 15 through 20 days per year. 20 minus 15 equals 5. Symbolic of my grandpa's surgery date, December 5th, 2025. The message also mentioned a guaranteed minimum of $1,000 weekly, a direct reference to my grandpa's workers' compensation checks, which he receives by mail. This wasn't a job or opportunity, it was a symbolic message. The text also contained 3 words: seeking, tasks, and weekly, where the letter K appeared in a different font. That wasn't a formatting error, it spelled KKK. Was that meant to imply kill? KKK isn't just a random sequence, it is a historically loaded acronym. It references the Ku Klux Klan, a white supremacist group known for racial terror, intimidation, and violence. In symbolic targeting, this wasn't accidental, it was psychological warfare. It was coded, it was meant to provoke, this wasn't a job opportunity, it was a symbolic message. On November 3rd, 2025, around 3:10 p.m., my mom asked me to check with my grandma about the dates of her last surgery. A few minutes later, as I walked over to ask her, the phone rang. It was her doctor's office calling to schedule her next surgery. The timing wasn't random, it was immediate. They weren't just watching, they were responding. Remember the butcher reference? On September 10, 2025, Professor Negel referenced the Roman numeral number 5 and used a family member's name as a patient. She repeated this again on September 15th and September 22nd, 2025, 3 times, and the number 3 itself is used as harassment. She said his name was Mr. Ruben V. She said he smokes, is Hispanic, has 2 adult children, and is a butcher. She described my father. She knew. And she placed that information on page 9 of the first slideshow. The number 9 wasn't random. It is a reference to the 9 family members. This wasn't education, it was symbolic warfare. On September 22nd, 2025, at 10:47 a.m., Professor Negel did another Ruben V case study. After she mentioned Ruben V, a nursing student named Xavier screamed out the name Ruben. This is a continued correlation. My family members' names are mentioned in class and a student purposely repeats them. They don't do this for any other names. Before this happened at 9:37 a.m., Professor Negel said her daughter worked at Elmhurst University. She said this on purpose to reference the word Elm in Elmhurst and the word Hurst for death. In that same class, I received a DSNA email. It said, "A lot to process, I know." It also included a riddle. Why don't nurses ever play cards? Because they are always worried about the patient's hearts. The word hearts was placed in quotes, followed by a heart emoji and an exclamation mark. The choice of butcher was not accidental. Not to mention, they use Elm because the Menendez brothers killed their parents and lived on Elm Street. That reference is not accidental, it is symbolic, it is psychological, it is targeted. On October 6, 2025, Professor Negel referenced the number 5 again. She said the patient's name was Susan, Ruben's wife. Susan is the name of one of the partners at my mom's previous workplace. That same day, October 6, 2025, I received an illegal letter of dismissal from DePaul University. The timing was not a coincidence, It was a coordinated act of retaliation, layered with symbolic references to my family, my mom's workplace, and my father's absence. DePaul was connecting my school, my family, my mom's workplace. This isn't coincidence, this is correlation, this is targeting. DePaul, my family, my mom's workplace, all intersecting symbolically, strategically, and maliciously. The term elm appears repeatedly across incidents involving psychological manipulation, geographic baiting, and semantic intimidation. It is not incidental, it is engineered. On July 16, 2025, a firework detonated aggressively near our home. 15 minutes later, my mom received a prank call from an Elmhurst-based number. Around midnight, I received 2 DePaul lab safety emails that vanished upon app access. This triad, explosive noise, Elmhurst-linked call, and disappearing emails as a psychological tactic using semantic alignment to provoke fear. On November 29, 2023, I received a text referencing 30 ELM 4F and a proposed March 1st lease start date. This was geographic bait, a timestamp engineered provocation designed to destabilize and symbolically align with known threat clusters. The dates weren't random. My grandpa's surgery, delayed for 6 years, is now scheduled for December 5th, 2025. The timing speaks volumes. They want to intercept the lawsuit payout before it even reaches him. On June 12, 2024, James McCarthy, partner in my mom's former workplace, emailed, "Elmo bourbon was good," during a potluck. The Elm reference, initially innocuous, later revealed itself as symbolic interference, threaded into everyday correspondence to echo prior harm and provoke psychological unease. On August 24, 2025, my mom received a call from health advocate in Elmhurst, Illinois. The caller, Cynthia, claimed to be a home nurse. The location and timing mirrored prior Elm references, triggering recognition of a pattern of digital and behavioral interference. My mom documented the call as harassment. Across these events, Elm functions as a symbolic marker used to link unrelated domains, home, school, workplace, healthcare, trigger psychological distress, create semantic continuity across harassment tactics, undermine safety and stability through geographic and timestamp manipulation. This is not coincidence. This is choreographed interference. This is evidence and this is motive. On October 18, 2025 at 1:19 p.m., I got a prank text. "I'll be in Illinois this December. Will you be around?" Exactly 12 hours later, October 19th at 1:19 a.m., the lights flickered. Same minute, same pattern, same escalation. This wasn't coincidence. It was surveillance-linked targeting, tied to my grandpa's surgery, his lawsuit, our lawsuit, and our testimony. They want to destabilize us. They want to interrupt his care. They want to break our timeline before we can testify. But we are documenting everything. My grandpa's lawsuit has been going on for 6 years. Why? Because needed surgeries were canceled last minute again and again. He tells me they are waiting for me to die. And now, after my mom and I get dismissed, suddenly they want to schedule his surgery? Is he the third dismissal? I'm documenting to stop further harm and to get the harm already caused out there. An emergency federal investigation is needed because this isn't just delay, it is denial by design. At one of my grandpa's doctor's appointments, my grandma told me the doctor said, "If he dies, you can find someone else." She said it was inappropriate. She was mad. There was no need for him to say that. My grandpa told my mom and me, "I feel like one of my doctors is trying to kill me." He told my grandma he is worried because he needs the surgery. All these people know I'm writing this. They know I'm documenting this. The hackers like to pause what we are watching on our phones. They paused on a show called When Murder Comes to Town. They also placed emojis on my mom's YouTube together. An eye, a mouth with fangs, a lipstick. My grandma and grandpa are going for eye surgery. They know we are planning to attend America Fest on December 18th, and they want to prevent us from going. On my grandma's birthday, my mom received a jury duty notice scheduled for November 18th, 2025. Previously, my brother received a jury duty notice to attend on the date of my uncle's birthday, which is 4 days after my grandma's. These weren't random, they were timed, they were symbolic. They want to block our movements, they want to interfere with our advocacy, they want to destabilize our family, one milestone at a time. On August 22nd, 2025, at 8:24 p.m., I received a prank text. "Are you free tomorrow?" Then on August 23rd, 2025, our next door neighbors had a party. It mocked a funeral. They all wore black. They purposely held the party on that date because August 20th is the day the Menendez brothers killed their parents. Outside their home, they had 2 balloons, both the number 9. One 9 symbolized the first family members to know about this crime. The other 9 symbolized that they've been doing this crime for almost a decade. At 1:19 a.m., flickering of the light wasn't random. It was a celebration of 10 years 1 plus 9 equals 10, a coded signal, a time-stamped threat, and backwards 119 becomes 911. Another layer of symbolic manipulation. A mockery of emergency, of crisis, of who's really behind it. These neighbors had been engaging in psychological and emotional abuse. They received a bribe to do this. They participated in symbolic targeting, mockery, and surveillance-linked harassment. On the same day, August 23rd, 2025, I received a Best Buy email referencing popcorn. Our neighbors popped popcorn directly outside my mother's bedroom window. They also left balloons on our grass for us to find in our yard and outside our home. One of the people attending the event came up to me and my mom and started filming us while we were sitting outside. No consent, no conversation, just intimidation. And when we watched the Monsters movie, the hackers had my uncle Mike call my grandma during the scene where Eric Menendez received a call that he was going to be arrested. Time to interrupt and signal. My other uncle's name is Eric. They have people set off fireworks to coordinate with the movie scenes. And in Michigan, they escalated. Someone blew off fireworks at our bedroom window in the middle of the night while we slept. Not celebration, targeted mimicry, emotional baiting, surveillance-linked harassment. This wasn't coincidence. It was coordinated interference. It was a threat. Investigate my family members. This has now been going on for a decade, along with EMPIS, the law offices of Gunty and McCarthy, and many others. When I was in high school, I traveled to New Mexico and Arizona for my uncle's wedding. My mom wasn't there. What happened on that trip wasn't the beginning. It was part of a pattern that had already been happening and continued long after. During that trip, one of my uncles tried to get me to squat to the ground so he could take a photo. My grandmother saw what was happening and firmly said no. He got angry and refused to speak to her afterward. Another one of my uncle's wives and her sister pressured me to do yoga poses and take photos, but I said no. I repeatedly refused, but they kept pushing. Around that same time, I noticed my mom's half-sister posted the same squat pose on Instagram, but she only showed herself partially. Her account also featured a caption, "She's got grit," echoing language used in symbolic targeting. Later, I started seeing the same type of poses spreading across other social media accounts. I now understand it was part of a coordinated mimicry campaign. This wasn't isolated, it was ongoing symbolic coercion designed to test boundaries, capture compromising imagery, seed public mimicry, and psychological manipulation. This is the same neighbor's house, the one that staged the funeral mockery, popcorn at my mother's bedroom window, left balloons on our lawn, and filmed us without consent. And it is the same house where one of their family members screamed into my window, "I have a gun and I'm ready to use it." Not metaphor, not suggestion, a direct threat to me through my window. This wasn't random, it was targeted intimidation, it was criminal harassment. On February 13, 2025, I was sitting in my pathophysiology class at DePaul University when Professor Rebecca Barron started talking about her uncle, Raymond. She said he had diabetes, was not all there, and was embarrassing to be around. She said he would pee on himself, wear diapers, and that she had to inject his insulin herself. Then she ended it with, "He's dead now." My grandpa's name is Raymond, and the day before this staged classroom dialogue, my grandma had gone to my mom trying to discuss my grandpa's medical issues. She told my mom that she has to inject him with insulin because she doesn't trust him to do it himself. She also said he's been talking like he is going to die soon, even though nothing medically happened for him to say that. The professor repeated his private medical details in class in front of me, and right after she said Raymond, a nursing student behind me whispered his name, just loud enough for me to hear, just like they did in MedSurg 1, where a student repeated the name Ruben right after the professor said the name. It wasn't random, it was coordinated mimicry, emotional signaling, surveillance disguised as education. 2 days later, on February 15th, my mom emailed the president and dean of students. She documented everything. This incident and the patterns happening across campus. They were made fully aware and they did nothing. This wasn't just a story, it was a reenactment, a way to condition, disrupt, and erase. Can we investigate Professor Barron's story? On the day I was illegally dismissed from DePaul University, my grandma went to deposit my grandpa's workers' comp check at the Chase Bank in Oak Lawn, Illinois. She came back to the car and told my mom the teller deposited her check into someone else's account. She caught it when she looked at the receipt. The balance wasn't hers. Someone already tried to steal money from my grandma's Chase account. She was getting lots of calls claiming to be from Chase. It wasn't Chase. It was hackers trying to take advantage of the elderly. This is coordinated. This is dangerous. I need the public's help to protect my elderly grandparents and get this out. My grandma told us that for the longest time, whenever she logged into her Chase account on her phone, her Android would go off. Do-do-do-do-do. Once in Michigan, she went to the outside bank machine to transfer funds. She forgot her phone in the car with us. My mom and I witnessed it. While she was at the machine, her phone went off again. Do-do-do-do-do. It was symbolic interference. It was Empus doing. I had already shut off that setting on both of their phones. It was done on purpose. On December 15, 2025, when my mom and I came home, my grandma told us my grandpa was scheduled for surgery on December 5th, 2025. Right as she said it, her Android phone went off. Do-do-do-do-do. Same pattern, same timing. That same day, we found his workers' comp check outside on the cement. It wasn't in the mailbox. The mail person left it on the ground for anyone to pick up and take. My grandpa has been unable to sleep. He started questioning 2 medications his doctor prescribed. When my mom looked into them, she discovered he shouldn't be on them, especially before surgery. They are high risk and dangerous in surgical contexts. The medications were naproxen, increases bleeding risk before surgery, nortriptyline, a tricyclic antidepressant that can cause cardiac arrhythmias, sedation, and exaggerated responses to anesthesia, especially in older adults. He is 73 years old and has diabetes. He just took himself off those medications on his own. Let's see how his surgery goes. Hackers are watching. They are reading, listening, reporting, stalking, surveilling, blocking, and sabotaging. Help me expose who they are. Let's expose each child so this doesn't happen again. My mom's Gmail was stolen and never recovered. There are emails with Mother McCauley High School documenting all the bullying. A law firm refused to help. That email is gone too. They cared enough to steal her Gmail account. Why? Her YouTube account named Angela, a name she never used publicly. She didn't follow anyone she knew. No one she knew followed her. And on October 8th, 2024, before the hacking became apparent, Coulter Kennedy, a partner at the firm, called her for the first time ever. He called her Angela. She emailed him to ask why. He never replied. On January 3rd, 2024, at 3:01 p.m., a paralegal with an insurance company called my mom Angela in a work email. She never did this before. These weren't mistakes. This was done on purpose. This crime was initiated by my mom's 3 brothers, her half-sister, and their families. They are the originators of harassment, surveillance, and coordinated obstruction. Their actions triggered a chain of cyberstalking, workplace sabotage, institutional retaliation. They didn't just betray family, they activated a system, and now that system is being exposed. Once we realized we were hacked, my grandma called Norton Virus for help. Her call was intercepted by Empus. She handed the phone to my mom, who was coerced into downloading UltraViewer onto her laptop. We have the photo. They tried to scam her out of $9,000, telling her to buy gift cards from Home Depot, a store she had just visited for Halloween decorations. It wasn't random, it was symbolic. They said $9,000 because the number 9 references the first 9 family members who knew about this crime. Then they started referencing the number 8. They used the 8 ball because my mom's cousin, who was part of the original 9, passed away. This is numerical signaling. It is psychological warfare. It is coordinated targeting. They mentioned the dark web. They claimed to be working with the FBI. They asked her to open all her account information to check for charges. One of my professors at DePaul University claimed that her coach was an FBI agent. When I emailed her to question this, she refused to respond in writing. I knew it wasn't true. She was mocking the fact that my mom and I couldn't reach the FBI ourselves. Not by phone, not in person, not through letters. That's not a coincidence. That's coordinated obstruction. After my mom lost her job, I started receiving prank texts urging me to find a job. On November 28th and 29, 2023, I received texts from Maggie O'Reilly asking, is there any way I could have a March 1st start date for a lease? This was not random. The lease was directed at us. The name was strategically chosen because one of the principals at Mother McCauley High School had the last name O'Reilly. On November 3rd, 2025, at 7:27 p.m., I received a prank text that said, are you working today? This crime has been planned for years. The symbols aren't accidental. The timing isn't coincidence. The names aren't random. When my mom reported the hacking to the police, they told her to sue T-Mobile for breach of contract. When she told the dean of students at DePaul, the dean said her workplace should conduct an internal investigation. When my mom relayed this to the office manager, her reply was, "She said that?" That response took her by surprise. The blame was being pointed elsewhere, but both are guilty, both are participating. This isn't confusion, this is coordinated harassment. Each institution is passing the blame while collaborating behind the scenes. While I was a student at Mother McAuley High School, the senior prank was at my house. Someone blew off fireworks at my bedroom window and my mom's, timed to sound like machine guns. At graduation practice, the new principal said the senior prank was very respectful. The entire class laughed. The prank was at my house. Teachers repeated conversations from inside our home. Administrators were aware. No one stepped in. They watched. They participated. They harmed me. They thought they'd get away with it. During my time at McAuley, someone created a tea page on social media, a gossip page. I never followed it. By the time McAuley stepped in to take it down, a student made sure I was aware of it. They were inadvertently letting my mom and me know there was a page out there about us, about my grandpa and my grandma. We are hacked. The hackers block us from seeing the page. They like to post numbers on my laptop. Recently, they posted 16,000. My guess? That's how many people are following the page. My mom still receives prank texts from Mother McAuley, coordinated with other harassment. Even when she replies stop, it never stops. I faced bullying at McAuley. The administrators knew why. They didn't warn us. They allowed it. Around graduation, I was asked to speak at a golf resort. I declined. I couldn't fabricate my experience at McAuley. Then I received a prank text. "Hey James, you should go play golf." James is the name of two partners at my mom's previous workplace. That wasn't random. That was symbolic targeting. Mother McAuley High School was coordinating with my mom's workplace. Professors at DePaul kept referencing gun. Karen Nigel chose my lab partner to demonstrate a thermometer to her head. She said it's a gun. The students also called the thermometer a gun. I knew what they were doing. They were referencing for me to take my life. In another class, a student wrote on my lab, "Either live or die, purple your choice." Do you think the school did anything? No. In high school, a classmate from grammar school posted on Snapchat a skeleton wearing a Trump hat, where a teenage boy pointed a gun to its head. Do you think the school did anything? No. In December 2024, we experienced a series of symbolic and unconventional interactions at a local nail salon. Before that visit, I had noticed male employees whistling, laughing, and trying to get my attention, often speaking in a language that I didn't understand. At the time, we didn't connect it to the digital harassment we were experiencing. During that December visit, accompanied by my grandmother, an employee handed my mom 3 lotion bottles: jasmine, pomegranate, and mango, without explanation. No other customer received lotion. The bottles were labeled New York, a location with symbolic meaning in our case. The name Jasmine matched the signature on a letter we received from DePaul University about the Student Emergency Assistance Fund. We never told the school we needed assistance. The letter was sent immediately after my mom was let go from the law firm in April 2025. In 2025, a lotion bottle appeared at the front desk of my mom's former workplace with a handwritten post-it note that said, "Please don't steal me," with a smiley face, a phrase that mirrored private conversations we had at home. During that same salon visit, employees began playing card games near us, something we regularly do at my grandma's cottage in Michigan. Then on April 28, 2025, during a simulated patient interaction involving a urinary tract infection, UTI scenario, a student asked the patient, "Were you shot?" The patient replied, "I hope I wasn't shot in a nail salon." That reference wasn't random. It mirrored our experience. The timing of my mom's termination was not just a job loss. It was a structural anchor linking institutional exit to symbolic intrusion. I reported this to Dr. Stephanie Bird, the head of the nursing department. Nothing was done. May 17, 2025, our next door neighbor screamed into my bedroom window, "I have a gun and I'm ready to use it." This wasn't metaphor. It wasn't suggestion. It was a direct threat to me through my window. In grammar school, my mom put me in a summer camp. I met a girl named Ronnie who told me she was depressed and cut herself. She said her mom would take her scissors away and tell her to stop, but I never saw any cuts. She seemed fine. I know now an adult put her up to saying that to me, to put the idea into my head. Years later, this same person followed me on social media. Out of nowhere, she ended our Snapchat streak and sent me a picture of herself giving me the middle finger. It was something many kids were doing. We didn't go to school together, we didn't hang out, but she knew all about the middle fingers because she was participating. She was pushed to do this to me. There were also many references references to California by DePaul University staff. My mom's half-sister lives in California. That wasn't random. It was symbolic targeting. It was coordinated conditioning from childhood to adulthood. When I was still attending DePaul University, the night my mom and I confirmed her half-sister's connection to this crime, our neighbors, mostly high school students, set off fireworks. There were a lot. It was overwhelming. They weren't retaliating. They were celebrating. They knew we knew, and they were confirming it. On June 17, 2025, I saw a teenager signaling outside our home. It felt like a setup, a prelude to coordinated interference. Shortly after, our Ring camera footage was remotely deleted. Not by us, by unauthorized actors. Then a vehicle pulled up. The rear passenger aimed a weapon at me and my grandmother. We heard a sharp impact consistent with the BB gun discharge. This wasn't random, it was a deliberate escalation. They linked a digital breach to a physical threat. They deleted the footage. They targeted both of us, me and my grandmother. It was part of a broader campaign to provoke fear, to suppress legal momentum, to send a message. Surveillance and retaliation are active, adaptive, and watching. Back in 2018 or 2019, one of my mom's coworkers was also my volleyball coach at grammar school. My mom noticed I was being treated differently, singled out, and she raised concerns. Then the coach sent an email to all the parents saying, I would take a bullet for these kids. And right after that, she quit. She had just declared loyalty to the team, then vanished the moment my mom spoke up. It wasn't just strange, it was symbolic. She purposely used the word bullet, and no one talks like that. Not in a school email, not unless it is meant to land. That word fits into a larger pattern, a pattern of gun references, emotional targeting, and symbolic threats that keep showing up over time. When I got to high school, I tried out for volleyball again. I was treated differently. I didn't make either team. It felt intentional, like my name had already been marked. Then came college. One Florida university said they never got my ACT scores, even though we had confirmation they were sent. Another school sent emails to an address that wasn't what I gave them. It felt like someone was interfering digitally, strategically, deliberately. And before we even had a name for the pattern, there was the first call. When I was still in high school, an attorney from my mom's old firm reached out to another law office. The call got transferred to my mom. She described what I'd been going through, bullying, harassment, and school officials who looked the other way. She didn't know yet that this was part of something bigger. The law firm declined to take the case. They sent a formal letter in the mail. But in 2024, after my mom realized her Gmail was hacked, it was then stolen. That email was permanently lost. And so were the emails with Mother Macaulay. They were deliberately accessed. It wasn't random, it was on purpose. Another piece of the pattern, digital compromise, erased records, no accountability. This didn't start in college. It didn't start in high school. It started when I was a kid, and it kept growing. As I got older, my mom started uncovering how her own workplace had been compromised too. What looked like isolated incidents were actually connected, a pattern of retaliation and avoidance that targeted both of us. We started documenting everything because the interference wasn't random. It was coordinated, symbolic, and ongoing. I had this friend from high school. She wasn't a friend, she was inserted as a setup. I'll get into that in a later video. She posted photos of herself and her cousin lying on the ground like they were deceased. She titled it Crime Scene Photos. Later, I realized it was foreshadowing me. She also sent me a video in high school called Donkey with Shakira. It showed a doll hanging from the ceiling with a rope around its neck. Do you think the school did anything? No. At DePaul University, I saw more people I knew posting photos like they were dead. My mom's office manager's daughter did the same. She titled it Discount on Family and Friends. She worked part-time, sometimes at the law firm where my mom was employed. My mom reported her daughter and other students to the dean of students at DePaul. Do you think she did anything? No. At the law firm, the partner who was planning to fire my mom had a jersey outside his office, smoking gunties. It was out of place. It was symbolic because gunty had the word gun in it, and a gun fires. On the day my mom was let go, Professor Bowman kept asking, what if she got fired? Another professor, Karen Nudgel, made a comment about her son finally getting a job as a paralegal. My mom was a paralegal. The class laughed. I emailed her to ask what was so funny and where her son worked. In person, she said Johnson and Bloomberg. She claimed the joke was that he'd finally be making money. Can someone investigate whether he actually works there? Also, the name Johnson wasn't random. It was part of the pattern. Then came the Illinois Attorney General's office. On August 11th, 2025, my mom received a misaddressed letter from the Illinois Attorney General's office addressed to Richard Jackson. That wasn't a mistake, it was symbolic. We've been harassed for years with names ending in son, like Johnson and Jackson, used to provoke and intimidate us. Professor Nedgel did it at DePaul. Now the Attorney General's office is doing it too. This letter fits the pattern, and it's being added to our federal complaint. When my mom and I first visited the FBI field office, a police officer mentioned a power outage and said the building was in the medical district, where we get crazy people. He referenced people who claim they've been hacked by Russians or targeted with lasers through their windows. We knew exactly what that was. Reputational baiting, a way to frame our legitimate claims as delusional before we even spoke. The Russians comment hit harder than expected. My grandpa once told me he was forced to wear an ugly Russian hat to school as a child. That reference wasn't random, and it wasn't the first time lasers came up. A neighbor repeatedly pointed a green laser into my bedroom window. We interpreted it as a symbolic and surveillance-linked. Private conversations from rooms with no active devices were somehow leaked. My mom researched it and found that laser-based surveillance is a documented method, that green lasers become part of a bigger pattern. Psychological manipulation, voyeuristic targeting, symbolic signaling. And it goes back even further. In 6th or 7th grade, a student stood next to me and pointed a green laser at the teachers behind. She didn't notice, but I never forgot. Years later, I started getting direct messages and social media signals tied to that student's last name. On May 24th, 2025, I got a prank text about a job using that same last name. On July 10th, 2022, someone reposted a Snapchat video titled, "We Miss You, Gil," a partial match to that name. The video zoomed in on a girl's chest. The background song, "Flashy Lights." It was symbolic provocation, echoing themes of voyeurism and child exploitation. Looking back, it is all connected. The classroom laser incident in grammar school, the neighbor's green laser light, the police officer's mocking reference, the digital signals, and social media bait. This wasn't random, it was coordinated. A pattern of reputational containment, psychological interference, surveillance-linked provocation. The police officer's comment wasn't neutral. It was a containment tactic cloaked in mockery, a way to reroute survivors into psychiatric caricature and dismiss real harm through ridicule. On August 27, 2023, before I even started school at DePaul University, I received an email from DePaul's Environmental Health and Safety Office. The subject line was Lab Physics Laser Training, but the email itself only referenced lab and physics. No mention of laser training. It was mocking, it was symbolic, it was DePaul's way of signaling that they knew about the lasers on our home. And again, this was before I even enrolled. On February 5th, 2025, in a business ethics class at DePaul University, Professor Konigsberg referenced a story called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. It is about a utopia built on the suffering of a single abused child. She described the child as dirty, beaten, and abused, and said society enjoys harming the child. I emailed her that same day. I asked how the allegory connected to business ethics. I proposed The Wolf of Wall Street as a more relevant ethical framework. Professor Konigsberg replied, citing utilitarian contradictions, and said we would discuss it further in class. No follow-up ever happened. This was psychological signaling, not education. This wasn't just a story, it was a reenactment, a symbolic reminder that normalized harm, moral detachment, and academic silence are still active. In 2 DePaul nursing classes, students were encouraging each other to cheat. Both times, the professors stepped out of the room, something that never happened before. I knew they were trying to get me to cheat. They wanted a reason to kick me out. I emailed Dr. Stephanie Bird, head of nursing. Do you think she did anything? No. In 2023, I reported severe bullying to Dr. Bird and Dr. Amer. They knew all about the cyberstalking. Shortly after, Dr. Bird began repeating conversations from inside our home. Many professors did. They weren't scared because the president of DePaul University knew and allowed it. We contacted him many times. He never replied. Bribes, anyone? These are people we are taught to trust. Teachers, administrators, and medical professionals. Not these people. The world needs to know their names, who they are, what they allowed, what they did. That's not a normal school. I went to class every day and was harassed more than I was taught. Now my mom and I have a lawsuit against DePaul University The public doesn't know because the judges took a bribe. They sealed it, they buried it, they are protecting one another. Wouldn't you like to know how many children were groomed and exploited? Help me expose this. Sunil Harjani officially became a U.S. District Judge for the Northern District of Illinois on April 2nd, 2024. That date is my mom's half-sister's birthday. He was nominated by President Joe Biden on February 1st, 2024, which is my grandparents' anniversary date. That's not coincidence. It is symbolic timing. It is part of a pattern. A new law clerk started on July 22nd, 2024. His resume said he was a manager at a fireworks store and a former president of anti-bullying. Was this done on purpose? My mom was the supervising law clerk. On August 7th, 2024, Kathy Bickelhop, the former office manager, emailed my mom. Please be sure you set an auto response so everyone knows you are not working. That was abnormal. My mom never used auto reply. She always answered her emails. I checked social media. People I went to school with were mirroring my mom's work life. On July 28, 2024, the friend from high school posted, Hannah is out of the office right now and will reply in a timely manner when she arrives back. I'm sorry, this is Hannah's secretary. Would you like me to give her a message? I'm a new worker here. I'm sorry. I'm not doing a good job. I'm gonna have to block you to keep it. I can't let Hannah fire me. In high school, I was harassed with happy birthdays. I now know it was a reference to whether I'd make it another year. In the hallways at Mother Macaulay, students would wait for me to walk by. I'd hear, she's coming. Phones would come out. They'd start singing. It wasn't celebration. It was symbolic surveillance. On social media, students I knew and didn't know sent me Snapchat photos giving me the middle finger. The same thing started happening at my mom's workplace. She worked there for almost 18 years. She knows when something is abnormal. Suddenly, birthdays became exaggerated. This is a law firm, not a party venue. Streamers everywhere, decorations overboard. For James McCarthy's birthday, the employees filled his room with balloons. My mom was pushed by the office manager and billing manager to join the surprise, even though she kept declining. When she walked in, coworkers were smirking. Kathy Bickelhop, the office manager, was already filming with her phone, but James hadn't entered yet. She was filming my mom. They had a lookout. The balloons were symbolic. All they cared about was harassing my mom. Before senior year, a girl posted 2 photos on Snapchat. One of her and her boyfriend giving the middle finger. Another of balloons, captioned, love to see another year with a heart. She misused the word to. I texted her. She unfollowed me after I screenshotted the photos. I knew it was directed at me. After that, I started seeing students post guns, real or fake. My mom received a birthday card from a family member she had cut off a year earlier. Her birthday was 9 days after she was let go from the firm. The card's cover, lots of balloons, a strange choice. Inside, he wrote, I know the uncertainty of everything and not knowing who you can trust. That was odd. There was no uncertainty when she cut him off a year ago. He was mocking her job loss. At the end of the card, he wrote, I do wish you a happy birthday and many more. The phrase, many more, was added after his name, an afterthought. My mom was terminated by phone on April 3rd, 2025, after nearly 18 years of service. It was the day after her half-sister's birthday and just days before her own. The timing mirrored the firing of a DePaul professor. He was let go on my uncle's birthday, the same uncle who sent my mom the card with the balloons. It wasn't just a layoff, it was symbolic. At DePaul, I sat through a class where a video played. A patient said he had lost his job and was grieving the death of a parent. An hour later, a student handed me a birthday card and said it was Professor Karen Negel's birthday, the same professor who used the word gun, when my lab partner held the thermometer to her head. When the professor arrived, students sang happy birthday. It was scripted. It was just like high school. A reenactment of my mom's grief and job loss played out in front of me. At our family's Michigan cottage, strange things kept happening. Photos were stolen, the dryer was unplugged, underwear was left on a bed, my paddleboard was damaged, the bathroom mirror was shattered, a steel bench was destroyed, 2 animals were drowned in my grandparents' garbage can. We found the animals on my birthday. At that exact moment, I received a lab safety email from DePaul. The keys to the house in Michigan are being given out to a neighbor to do this. There is no forced entry. This is unlawful entry and intrusion. Earlier that month, on June 6, 2025, during a hospice clinical, Professor Budahezi said the door code was someone's birthday. It wasn't just a comment, it was part of a pattern. She did this on purpose because it was the only clinical date we had at hospice. Hospice is death, and she had to find a way to mention the word birthday. Again, it was my birthday month. They are also getting someone from ComEd to mess with our electricity. In one specific instance, it was morning. My mom opened her laptop and was writing about Judge Harjani. The light went out for about a minute. When the electricity came back on, the hackers pulled up an old conversation my mom had with AI about the value of the Michigan house. Then a neighbor plugged in our Halloween decoration outside, a skeleton. It was a threat, a symbolic warning, a message: we can break in, we can silence you. Not only are electronics hacked at home in Chicago, but also in Michigan. The cable companies in both states need to be investigated. The hackers freeze specific scenes on the television and freeze our cell phones at the same time. The scenes are usually about and murder. They've done this with our laptops too. This isn't random. It is coordinated psychological warfare. It is symbolic targeting, timed to birthdays, clinical rotations, and judicial exposure. We are documenting everything because every breach, every signal, every silence is federal. This is crossing state lines. The feds need to investigate. This has been going on since I was a little girl. I've been to other states while they watched and I didn't know. It's not just Chicago. It's not just Michigan. It is interstate stalking, digital surveillance, and symbolic intrusion. I'm documenting every timestamp, every freeze, every contradiction to protect my family, to expose the pattern, to make it federal. On October 8, 2024, my mom's workplace sent out a birthday email for two people, a partner and an attorney whose first name ends in gun. That attorney shared the same birthday as the person who was originally set to let my mom go. He's the one who had the Smoking Gun Tees jersey outside his office. He later took over as partner and became my mom's boss when her original boss became of counsel. It was a setup. She emailed the attorney with the word gun and his name and asked if his birthday was October 8th. He replied, yes, that is correct. The symbolism of gun and termination was too sharp to ignore. In a pathophysiology class at DePaul University on February 20th, 2025, I asked Professor Rebecca Barron to clarify a moment that fell off. During a lecture on the SA node, the heart's natural pacemaker, Professor Barron made a sound, do-do-do-do-do. A student named Lana repeated it. She was put up to the task to repeat this sound as we are harassed with it. Just like the students who repeat my family's names in class, then the professor repeated it again. I emailed later that day asking, isn't the correct sound lub-dub? I don't want to embarrass myself in clinicals. Professor Barron responded, she didn't recall making a sound. She confirmed that lub-dub is the correct term. She explained that lub is the sound of the tricuspid and mitral valves closing. Dub is the aortic and pulmonic valves closing. I replied again confirming, yes, you and Lana did the android do-do-do-do-do out loud 3 times. Earlier I mentioned when my grandma told us my grandpa's surgery was set for December 5th, 2025, her Android phone went off, do-do-do-do-do. Now in Professor Barron's class, she connected the heart to the Android sound, which is medically incorrect. I also mentioned that professors keep repeatedly making references to heart attacks, even bloody murder, and running away from a killer. This wasn't just a sound, it was the Android ringtone, the same one that goes off during moments of surveillance sabotage and threat in my family's life. It's been heard during bank interference, medical sabotage, check tampering, family targeting, DePaul University. This email confirms that DePaul professors were mimicking the ringtone in class during a lecture about the heart. It is not just symbolic, it is documented. Let me tell you about my seminar lecture at DePaul University. The professor's name is Daniela Meyer. In class many times, she said she used to be a Satanist but changed. For this, I'm going to read directly from the federal complaint, pages 127 to the top of 131. These aren't just my words. They are part of the official record, documented, timestamped, and submitted in federal court. What happened in that classroom wasn't education. It was symbolic provocation, emotional baiting, and reputational targeting disguised as academic dialogue. Here's what I experienced. Infantilization, surveillance commentary, and sexualized AIDS mythology. On May 13, 2025, during a seminar lecture at DePaul University attended by plaintiff Christina Hernandez, the seminar professor, name redacted, made a series of unsolicited, emotionally charged remarks about children and parenting. She began by stating that kids aren't pure innocent human beings, and went on to say that they can be dirty, and they can be masterminds. These statements weren't delivered without context, framing children as deceptive or manipulative. She continued by suggesting that parents could install cameras in the home to monitor their children's behavior, and stated that parents could then confront children with a full recounting of their actions, explaining that children would be shocked at how much information their parents possessed. Plaintiffs interpret this commentary as a symbolic reinforcement of surveillance-based behavioral control, consistent with earlier scroll documented entries involving auditory signaling, reputational conditioning, and mimicry-based intrusion. The professor then introduced a disturbing anecdote stating that some people believe that sexually assaulting a can stop AIDS. No context, citation, or academic rationale was provided for this remark. Plaintiffs assert that this statement was medically inaccurate, morally disturbing, and emotionally disruptive, invoking themes of sexual violence, misinformation, and reputational degradation under the guise of classroom dialogue. Plaintiffs contend that these remarks reflect a pattern of non-pedagogical storytelling, symbolic provocation, and destabilizing classroom conditioning used by DePaul faculty across multiple sessions. The statements carried no instructional relevance and appeared intended to evoke discomfort, simulate reputational attack, and reinforce social engineering motives outlined in prior entries. Plaintiffs reserve the right to submit classroom transcripts, student observations, and real-time notes as sealed evidentiary materials or legislative documentation under Christina's law. These remarks reinforce institutional patterns of symbolic intrusion, emotional weaponization, and reputational targeting using student-faculty communication as a behavioral delivery system. Plaintiffs recall an incident where in grammar school, plaintiffs had a conversation about AIDS. There was a story shared about someone Angelique met who had AIDS. Shortly after this conversation, one of Christina's classmates posted screenshots on Snapchat of a conversation she had with another girl. The other girl was begging her not to tell anyone she has AIDS. This same student also repeated another conversation between plaintiffs in which Angelique was telling Christina how someone on Facebook had posted a warning that she was about to clean up her list and delete people, and that some people might not make it. This same student repeated that similar phrasing on Snapchat. Christina was deleted during the second round of the cleanup list, and a similar thing happened to Angelique, who was unfriended during the second round as well. Plaintiffs found this odd, but didn't understand it at the time, although plaintiffs now know it was through hacking. Plaintiffs further assert that the professor's deliberate invocation of AIDS during the May 13, 2025 lecture was not incidental, but symbolic, intended to provoke temporal disorientation and force plaintiffs to reflect on how long such conversations took place. This tactic mirrors prior scroll-documented patterns of symbolic timestamp manipulation, reputational baiting, and emotional anchoring designed to destabilize memory and evoke past trauma under the guise of academic discourse. Student documentation of inappropriate faculty commentary. Seminar professor, name redacted, not numbered plaintiff Christina Hernandez documented concerns in multiple emails to the seminar professor, name redacted, citing a series of troubling classroom statements, including, "You also made several references in class, how we can drink beer all day and watch social bullying is worse than being dead. People who dislike queer people are hurt," and that you would ask them, "What is it? Did you lose your job?" Homeless people are homeless because they are not loved. If homeless people do have loved ones, their loved ones can't help them because they don't have any money. Social bullying doesn't have to do with politics or money. It has to do with social classes. If you were sexually assaulted, people say that you are not innocent, followed by the professor's stated disagreement with that sentiment. Children not being considered children because they were violated is odd too. What are they considered then? You didn't specify children in lecture. Christina states that on multiple occasions during class, the seminar professor made references to having used to be a Satanist. Plaintiffs interpreted these disclosures not as neutral autobiography, but as symbolic provocations designed to destabilize classroom tone, evoke themes of moral inversion, and reinforce reputational ambiguity. The invocation of Satanism, especially in an academic setting involving vulnerable students and sensitive topics such as sexual assault, was documented as part of a broader pattern of thematic inconsistency and psychological conditioning. Symbolic exchange and digital intrusion. May 6 through 7, 2025. Plaintiff further documented a symbolic exchange involving the word peer while composing a reply regarding sexual assault. Plaintiffs initially typed the word peer but deleted it, replacing it with innocence, to mirror the professor's prior classroom and email language. On May 7, 2025, Christina emailed the seminar professor, name redacted, stating, "In my original email, I wrote the word peer but deleted it and replaced it with innocence because that is the word you used in class and in your emails. I wanted consistency. Why did you add the word peer to your emails?" Plaintiffs inserted the professor's use of peer as evidence of digital intrusion, given that the original draft containing the word had not been sent. Christina had previously disclosed to the professor that she was experiencing a hacking issue and had brought it to the school's attention. The professor responded, "As far as the hacking/fireworks issue, that must be very stressful and anxiety-producing. Remember that DePaul offers free counseling if you feel it would help discussing what's been going on." These are stressful times all around, and we can all benefit from talking things through with others. Plaintiffs documented this response as a reframing tactic, redirecting concerns about digital compromise and symbolic interference into a mental health context. This was interpreted as part of a broader institutional pattern of reputational containment, emotional deflection, and procedural dilution. On May 6, 2025, Christina had also emailed the seminar professor, name redacted, to document a pattern of ambient disruption involving fireworks. She wrote, "After you emailed me, one of my neighbors started to do fireworks. Then after I emailed you, the neighbor did fireworks again. It seems like someone likes to set off fireworks whenever I talk to someone from DePaul University. The other day, my neighbor did fireworks after I wrote the head of nursing, name redacted. This sequence was documented as a part of a broader evidentiary pattern involving semantic mimicry, digital compromise, and ambient interference, reinforcing concerns about reputational baiting, psychological destabilization, and thematic intrusion across institutional actors. Wide linkage in institutional pattern recognition." The seminar professor's response on May 7, 2025, included a recommendation that Christina seeks counseling, stating, "That must be very stressful and anxiety-producing. Remember that DePaul offers free counseling." Plaintiffs documented this as a reframing tactic, redirecting concerns about digital intrusion, semantic mimicry, and ambient disruption into a mental health context. This response was interpreted as part of a broader institutional pattern of reputational containment, emotional deflection, and procedural dilution, where documented misconduct is reclassified as personal distress rather than systemic interference. This documented exchange aligns with the broader pattern of faculty behavior previously detailed in Infantilization, Surveillance Commentary, and Sexualized AIDS Mythology, May 13, 2025, reinforcing concerns about symbolic provocation, reputational containment, and thematic inconsistency across institutional actors. The addition of semantic intrusion via the unsent pure draft, ambient disruption via fireworks, and the plaintiff's explicit disclosure of hacking concerns to the seminar professor further intensifies the evidentiary pattern, suggesting coordinated psychological destabilization, digital compromise, and reputational baiting across multiple points of institutional contact. Here's something the public needs to hear. What happened inside my mom's former workplace wasn't just a private issue. It raises serious concerns about digital access, employee privacy, and executive accountability. On May 3, 2025, the office manager, Kathy Bickelhop, told my mom, "Empis does not have access to our phones unless we say it is okay." My mom asked, "Unless we say it's okay, how then do they go about accessing our phones with permission?" Kathy replied, "We means the person who own the phone. Empis doesn't have access to personal devices unless we, the owner, say it's okay. My apologies for the confusion." But when my mom pressed further, Kathy retracted her statement, so my mom emailed one of the firm's partners, James McCarthy, and asked if he wanted to clarify. He replied, "No, and I'm not wasting any more time on this." Then came the contradiction. On March 13th, 2025, Kathy emailed again and said, "Empis is not able to access your cell phone unless they are standing next to you and you hand the phone to them." That didn't make sense. My mom had worked there for nearly 18 years and she doesn't recall ever meeting an Empis technician in person. So how are they accessing her phone? This isn't just about one firm. It's about how IT vendors, executives, and office managers handle digital access and how quickly the story changes when someone asks questions. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, a timeline of federal obstruction. April 28, 2025, my mom filed a formal complaint with the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. Allegations are sexual harassment, racial discrimination, cyberstalking, and retaliation by the law offices of Gunty and McCarthy and their IT vendor Empis. June 17, 2025, Cross filed the same complaint with the Illinois Department of Human Rights, IDHR. June 23, 2025, IDHR confirmed receipt via email. Assigned control number 250-623-015 stated that due to staffing shortages, it could take 16 to 20 weeks for an intake investigator to reach out. No call, no email, no letter. IDHR went silent. September 30th, 2025, EEOC confirmed my mom's in-person interview for October 20th, 2025 at the Chicago District Office. They sent a reminder, "We will email you in 8 days to confirm." If the 8 days isn't a standard email, then it was done on purpose, symbolically. October 6, 2025, EEOC canceled the interview, citing a lapse in federal appropriations. Why didn't they delay sending the email? It correlates with my dismissal with DePaul University. Then came the contradiction. EEOC canceled the interview, then they closed the case without ever conducting the interview. Then they demanded my mom duplicate forms already submitted. Then they refused to confirm receipt. Then they ignored her follow-up emails. Then they stated that the next available appointment were in March 2026. This wasn't scheduling, this was procedural obstruction designed to reset the federal timeline, delay testimony, and bury evidence. October 17, 2025, my mom's email to EEOC. My mom sent a formal email to the EEOC Chicago District Office demanding clarification and escalation regarding inquiry number 440-2025-07122, which had been marked case closed on the portal. She wrote, "I did not close this case. This closure is not procedural. It is obstruction. Let me be clear. This is not just a discrimination case. This is a child case." She documented that her daughter, Christina Hernandez, was targeted through coordinated cyberstalking, digital sabotage, and institutional retaliation. That private data was accessed, harvested, and distributed without consent. That Gunty & McCarthy, EMPAS, DePaul University, and Chicago Public Library systems were complicit. That federal agencies have deflected, delayed, and denied accountability. She demanded the case to be reopened immediately, and her testimony accepted without further delay, no response. On October 30th and 31st, 2025, my mom emailed the EEOC twice. She attached her original complaint and refilled the same forms they already had because they told her to start over after canceling her appointment. The questions were identical, the process made no sense, but she complied, documented everything, and demanded confirmation that her April 28th filing date would be preserved. Christina Law 2026 is exposing how federal agencies delay justice, duplicate trauma, and bury complaints in bureaucracy. I will post their response and give an update in another video once we and if we hear back. IDHR, IDFPR, and the fabrication of federal intake. We never filed a complaint with the Illinois Department of Human Rights, IDHR, for myself versus DePaul University. But on September 29, 2024, IDHR emailed us a complainant information sheet, CIS, with a case number already assigned. No prior outreach, no origin, no explanation. When we pressed for documentation, IDHR deflected to the Illinois Board of Nursing, claiming the referral came from them. But we had already filed with the board, formally, directly, and with timestamps. So why was IDHR pretending to receive a referral they couldn't document? This was orchestrated to harass us, to let us know they weren't going to help. It was mockery. Then came the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation letter, IDFPR, dated September 23, 2025, listed a complaint from Christina Hernandez versus DePaul University, received by IDHR October 2, 2025, after we had already called out the contradiction. The timeline didn't match, the sender was vague, it was a reactive justification, not a legitimate intake. They never responded to our questions. IDFPR and IDHR took bribes. They fabricated paperwork to justify contact. They manipulated the timeline. They bent the system to protect child. And then there's Dr. Stephanie Bird, head of nursing at DePaul University, Ellen Fagato, dean of students and the Title IX coordinator, and Robert Manuel, president of DePaul University. They weren't afraid to break the law. They weren't afraid to let the system bend around them. They knew I was protected, and they knew the system was compromised. They were complicit, and now they are time-stamped. We asked, who submitted the original complaint? Why was IDFPR omitted from earlier communications? What was Miss Petway's role as she was on the email? Why was the letter created after the fact? No response. Institutional silence and federal evasion. The following agencies must be investigated: Department of Justice, Department of Education, Illinois Department of Employment Security, Illinois Board of Nursing, Indiana Board of Nursing, Michigan Board of Nursing, Board of Education, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, Human Rights Department, Chicago Mayor's Office, 8th District Police Station, Police at the FBI Building in Chicago, COPA, Bureau of Internal Affairs, Illinois Inspector General's Office, Chicago Public Library, and many more. Every institution disappeared. They correlated harassment. They are protecting child. See my link tree to read the first amended complaint, which still doesn't include all the harm we've endured. Why? Because we are still waiting on the court to assign an attorney, and the court has been silent. On Linktree, you can also read the emails we've documented, watch other videos of testimony, follow the full contradiction archive. We've shown you emails in this video, each one timestamped, contradictory, and emotionally loaded. But there are dozens more. They are not just messages, they are evidence. We need interventions. We need the FBI involved. And we need this to reach President Donald Trump. Please share this video, drop the link, make it go viral, because what is happening to my family isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. We are exposing the evil so we can stop the harm, so we can protect other children, other families, from ever going through this again. I can't do that alone. I can only do it with your support. Let's make sure they hear us. Let's keep exposing, documenting, and building. Please visit the links below to access Christina's testimony, legislative blueprint, and public documentation. My YouTube channel at Christina Law 2026, Linktree, linktr.ee/Christina Hernandez 2026, Instagram at Christina Law 2026, TikTok at Christina Law 2026, and email Christina Hernandez 2026 at gmail.com.